Welcome everybody around the world here for the semifinals of the LCK broadcast. We got me, Valdez, it's LS today. The two of us back together to cast Gen.G up against DRX. It is going to be a massive matchup here, LS. How are you feeling about this one?
I'm really looking forward to this one because I feel like Gen.G they have so much momentum behind them, and I think that there's a lot of very big expectations for DRX, but they've been wavering a lot in the most recent weeks. And for them to be the final test before Damwon, I'm not so sure that they're going to actually be able to stand up to Gen.G because they just looked so impressive against Afrika. And DRX in a couple of their last series looking very, very, very shaky.
Yeah, it's like a mix of two things, as you're mentioning, right? Like, how heavily do we weight the win against Afrika? Was it Gen.G being just that good, or was it Afrika having a weak match, or was it both? And then you think about DRX in recent times, the 2-1 victory that they barely got over Sorewon Prince, who finished the season 1-17 in the LCK. Also took a loss to T1 in a 2-1 matchup, which was kind of close. And you have to wonder, you know, DRX were looking really good. They have some incredibly talented players, but can they show up today against a Gen.G who is looking incredibly strong? As you guys can see here on the bracket, whoever does win this best of 5 will be going up against Damwon on Saturday. That is this coming Saturday. And here are the points. So everybody's just trying to make it as far as possible in order to try to make it into Worlds.
Yeah, and I mean, Gen.G coming into tonight's series, like you mentioned, against Afrika, if it was just a good matchup, I feel like their matchup against DRX is even more favorable to them. So DRX, with the jungler matchup being the way that it is, with the top side, Rascal's going to have a lot more freedom, and he should have a much easier time against Doron. I feel like there's so much more pressure put onto Chovy and the bottom lane of DRX as well, and I just don't really see them pulling through, not with the types of drafts and type of play that we've been seeing out of them in recent weeks.
Yep, I would have to agree. So guys, we're going to take another look here at the visual, the video match points essentially. Really want to point out that the production team has stepped it up even another leg here for the playoffs. These have been super cool. And we do get to talk over them, but every time I'm like, well, I kind of just want to watch. But you guys can see some of the incredible plays. This is, of course, Chovy coming in with the 4-man Galio taunt. As you were mentioning, they're really going to need him to show up today if they're going to have any chance against Gen.G.
Yeah, and I mean, Gen.G have fallen to DRX a couple of times, obviously, in the past. But I feel like the momentum they've been riding in the last couple of weeks, I keep really hammering this home. They feel just so solid. They feel like they're an immovable object, and DRX, they're very hit or miss. And a lot of the times that they end up winning is often they find themselves in relatively good draft, and Chovy and Keria are so important to a lot of their wins. Doron, he can just end up bleeding and solo costing them the game. With the way that the meta has sort of been changing as well, with support marksmen sort of coming in, utility and support marksmen, Deft is likely going to have a little bit less influence than he would otherwise like to have in a matchup like this one, because he should have been so important to their victory here if they were going to get it against Gen.G.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important, and you can see that Gen.G, they smacked down Afrika a couple of days ago. If you guys did not see that match, trust me when I say the most one-sided series we had all year. And I'm not saying that lightly. Gen.G looked incredible, but we are highlighting some of DRX's moments. I think that TF, of course, is going to be a top priority pick for both of these mid laners here. It is going to be, of course, Chovy versus BDD. And you see a couple of their highlighted picks here. 19-4 so far in the LCK. DRX have heavily been favored against Gen.G so far, but today definitely feels a little bit different.
We'll see what Ruler is going to be able to do here. Also, it's so important that even though the finals come after this against Damwon, this series is so big for both of these teams that you could just see the do or die secret picks, if they have any prepared leading up to this match, come out here today rather than just saving it for Damwon in the finals. Obviously, this match is probably going to be a pretty big telling of what we can maybe expect for either one of them if they do advance against Dawn1, because Dawn1 is looking like they're going to bulldoze through anyone.
Yeah, and it will be pretty cool to see if Gen.G, imagine they get like a sick 3-0, almost as one-sided as we saw a couple of days ago, and then we got them on a huge tear up against Dawn1, who have been on a tear all summer. That would be an incredible story going into the finals. And, I mean, they've got guys like Ruler to back them up. This guy was #1 damage per minute in all of the LCK. He's been incredibly consistent, never really falling down. His Ashe is unbelievable.
Yep.
Definitely the best in the LCK right now. So we're taking a look at some detailed stats between the two teams. We also have the playoff stats for Gen.G, as they did win their first playoff best of 5 in the LCK, by the way, which was highlighted in that video. Definitely looking good coming into this one.
Yeah, I mean, Gen.G have a lot of good stats here. Obviously, a couple of second and thirds pretty much across the board. Playoff round 1 against Afrika. A lot of those stats are looking very good. That was a decimating 3-0 over Afrika, who took down T1. And if you remember, DRX against some of those teams in the final weeks struggled quite a bit. So DRX's placement in the playoffs here is going to be very telling of how they were able to practice leading up to this, because they've had a lot of time to prepare. And historically, CV Max teams with long breaks always actually started performing worse, if you guys remember. So, is that going to affect DRX here against Gen.G today?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I think this prediction board kind of tells the story. It seems like you and Wadid are the only ones that went for the 3-0, but every single person went for the Gen.G win. There is not a single analyst here in the LCK that thinks that DRX is going to come in today and win, which is very telling. You know, just based on the way the last couple of weeks have been going for this team. And yeah, I mean, you told me before the broadcast, you said 3-0, and
you said it was going to Game 5.
What? I'm sorry, what is
you said it was going to Game 5.
I was thinking it would. And nobody here, actually no, BitDore is the only person who had 3-2. So,
well,
there's one other person out there that agrees.
Listen, Valdez. My grandmother, the matriarch, she predicted Gen.G. And if you've seen her track record,
uh-oh.
DRX need to be a little bit worried. That's just how it goes. Well, this is the lineup for today, DRX. No surprises. On the flip side, Gen.G, no surprises likewise. And it's just going to probably be an honest game of League of Legends. Gen.G, they're going to be starting on the red side. And the reason I went for the 3-0 is generally I won't give a 3-1 unless I think the enemy team could win with a draft advantage. I think even if DRX gets a draft advantage, it's probably not going to be meaningful enough to just topple Gen.G. And so that's why I go for the 3-0. It's really, really weird for me to try to imagine in what world do you accurately predict like a 3-2 or 3-1, and what even really goes into that. And I just think that the way these two teams match up, what's likely to happen regarding 55, 60, 40 drafts, things of that nature, I think it's always just favoring Gen.G, even in the 40-60 scenarios. And so that's why my prediction ended up the way that it did. And here we go with key player matchup.
Yeah, I don't blame you, especially the way that things have been going in recent times. And I think that a lot of League of Legends depends on your current form, right? Like, we've seen teams go super pristine in the regular season and then come playoff time, just fall down and not do as well because they just aren't having a good couple of weeks during the time when it matters the most, or they get crushed under the pressure, which definitely does happen. Chovy versus BDD here. You can see that the both of them, of course, some pretty incredible stats. I think that BDD was looking as consistent as ever up against Afrika. He wasn't necessarily the star performer. I think it was a lot of life, a lot of Clid really coming out of the woodwork and doing amazingly alongside of Ruler, who essentially carried every single game. And then, of course, we look at Chovy. Always has been a very strong laner, and of course an incredibly mechanically skilled mid laner, but is he up to the challenge today to try to carry his team? Because they're going to need him a lot coming into this best of 5.
Yeah, and I feel like, again, Chovy is probably the only piece of the puzzle that DRX should be able to rely on. We're getting a look in at the houses. Deft is standing up. Yeah, he's going Super Saiyan for the match.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the reason why I think it might go to 5 games, because they got a couple of Super Saiyans there. Keria also dyeing his hair bleached white, so attempting to use that to power themselves up. But here we go, guys. We're getting into the draft. DRX, they get side selection because they are the higher seed, and they choose blue for game number 1.
Blue is a very interesting choice in this kind of a meta, unless they're just solely intending to try to get a hold of Caitlyn or something. That's really the only instance that I think that Blue should ever really be considered favorable. Gen.G, they're just going to actually ban it away. DRX now with a Kalista ban. Renekton already banned away.
The Kalista ban is interesting. I think, obviously Ruler is a fantastic Kalista, but his Ashe has been the star performing champion for him. And I think if you ignore that or just let it go over without getting much in return, you're going to be struggling a little bit here just straight up in this draft. But they're going to go ahead and ban away BDD's Azir on top of everything else.
And Gen.G, see what their final ban's going to be. It's going to be set. DRX, what is going to actually be the B1? Obviously, LCK meta very different from the rest of the world.
Yeah, that is true. I think Volibear might be coming in here. I think if you give over a Volibear to Clid, you might be in a little bit of trouble. And it has been one of the top tier picks in the LCK. But we do see the Ashe taken away, so this is what I was talking about in bans. They don't want to give that one over to Ruler.
I'm curious to see how Gen.G are going to respond to this one. Obviously, Ezreal's still open. Senna is available as well. And this is the type of marksmen that are just really flourishing right now, and this is why I'm sort of worried for DRX. Because this means that Deft sort of has less influence than he would probably otherwise have in different metas. If you remember the meta from Spring, you have a lot more influence there, with Varus and Aphelios and a much stronger Ezreal. But now everything is centered more towards control. And Gen.G, there it is, Volibear.
Yeah. Mr. Electric Bear himself comes out alongside of Senna, which is another pick that you did mention. Now, DRX looking to round this out. Will they go for their jungle pick here? There's a lot of stuff that we've seen picked into Volibear, such as AP junglers. Lilia's still available, Nidalee's still available. It looks like Pioshik, who has been on a bit of a roll with this Lilia, will be picking it up alongside of Lucian here for the side of DRX.
And this Lucian is most likely flexed between mid and top. The Lilia coming out is not really that surprising. She's been getting a lot of priority pretty much everywhere in the world right now. She's likely going to be jungle, but I like the fact that at least DRX has the ability to flex Lilia top lane, keep Lucian mid lane, and do a lot of crazy stuff. Twisted Fate coming out now for Gen.G. And DRX, I mean, out the gate with the team comp that they have right now, they're forced to run into their opponents. All of their champions are short range. They do have some pick. They have some poke with their team comp with Lilia and obviously Ashe volleys, but Gen.G's team composition, if they just keep drafting Protect and mid-rangey, it's going to be really hard for DRX to play the B4, B5 picks and try to come out ahead, and this is why red side can be a little bit scary. Galio gets banned away.
Yeah, they're trying to take away stuff that can go into the Twisted Fate, so maybe even a Sylas consideration here if they want to take away a couple of the responses we've been seeing to Twisted Fate. Sylas has fallen off a little bit, so they might consider something else. Maybe some kind of support that could go alongside of Ashe, but let's see what they're going to go with 5 seconds left here. They will go with the Karma.
Well, this is brewing up to be pretty interesting. The Akali ban as well. Maybe that's signifying that they want Azir. Or, well, no, Azir's already banned away. I'm not actually sure what the Akali is all about as a ban, then. That is sort of perplexing me. Now, the Nautilus being hovered here on R4 might just get locked in, and so they're not prioritizing bottom lane counter pick. They want to give Rascal whatever matchup he desires up and top.
Ooh, okay. That was a really quick pick with the Ornn coming out here for Doran. And Ornn has been interesting. It's been slowly coming back. It's something that Rascal can play and something that Doran has played a bunch of times as well in the regular season. The Thresh comes out here too, so offering a little bit of extra pick alongside of their, Ashe and Ornn already. As one final pick here for Gen.G. Will it be? Nope, it's going to switch to the Nidalee. So we got Volibear actually heading up towards the top side into the Ornn.
Well, Ornn is going to come in, and this makes DRX's team composition extremely hard engaged. And this is what I was mentioning prior to the match starting, that DRX, they draft these types of team compositions, and Gen.G, they retain the ability to pivot Volibear top lane, and Volibear does beat Ornn inside of the laning phase. And because of Lilia and Ornn being double magic damage duo, Volibear has a lot easier time itemizing for early and mid game and then transitioning into his armor against Lucian and Ashe. And I feel like he's very well poised to be a pretty good body blocker here, which is all that they really need him to do. And Klid has really, really good lane setups for him on the Nidalee, whereas Pyosik is going to have a very hard time.
Yeah, I think it is going to come down to a little bit of jungle. We'll see if any Diffie in the Jiffy comes out here today, because I love the swap that comes out with the Nidalee going straight into the Lilia, which was a response to the potential Volibear jungle. And you guys can see the entire lineup here. So, LS, you were saying if the draft goes even in the first couple of games, you would be favoring Gen.G. So I'm curious to see how it is all going to play out, and if DRX can actually put up a fight against this Gen.G that are on a roll like a freight train right now. As we're just about ready to jump into game number 1, guys. So here we go, DRX up against Gen.G. The winner of this will move on to the World Championship, which was highlighted a little bit early on when we saw the point values from the playoffs. And here we go.
That will mean the loser of this match, right, will go on to contend with T1, correct? In the gauntlet?
Well, it also depends on if... if Damwon win in the finals as well. Because I think there is a chance that if Damwon do go down, then they're going to have to fight through the gauntlet. I think for them it's pretty cut and dry. And also I think they were fans of T1. I'm not sure. I saw a lot of the graphs earlier on today, and I don't,
The graphs are very complex.
Yeah, I don't have them imprinted on my mind just yet, but I'm sure we'll get that information as the games do progress here.
Well, so for these two team compositions, DRX, they do have a little bit of insurance policy with the Ornn in the later stages of the game. He has a little bit less scaling because he's taking Grasp here into Volibear rather than just going Spellbook. We see a lot of Ornn players in eastern regions still do this. Not elect for the Spellbook, but a lot of the champions on the side of DRX, they start to taper off after 2.5 items. And Senna cannot really go ignored the longer that this game ends up going, with team comps being the way that they are. We got a big trade happening down here.
Yeah, just a little bit of back and forth. Of course, the Frost Arrows from Deft and the volley that he's able to put out is immense amount of poke alongside of Thresh, who is ranged compared to the Nautilus, who's going to have a little bit of a harder time there. Already mid lane looking pretty good for Chovy, even though it is just level 1, level 2 at the moment. Pyosik, as I mentioned in the draft, on a huge roll right now with the Lilia. He has 4 wins, 0 losses. In fact, the only person who does have a loss on Lilia is Spirit from the best of 5 that we did play on Friday.
Yep. We'll see what he can do here this game on Lilia. He went immediately into Clid's blue side jungle, as Clid was just full clearing his red side camps. So we'll see what ends up happening here. Clid does transition now. He's gonna get the bad news. Not a whole lot that's able to be happening here. Now, Deft and Keria, they have the ability to go for a cheater recall here. They did crash the wave. It was a little bit slower than they would have probably liked. And no, now they're just gonna end up getting locked inside of the lane. And you can see that Pyosik actually comes out with a slight edge here against Clid with the openings. So we'll see how the rest of this game is transitioned out.
There have been a lot of question mark pings around this blue side jungle. And you can see that Pyosik, he's not going to check his blue. He's like, okay, I got a little bit of a lead. Let's take it slow here. I see my wolves are still up. Let's go for that. Don't want to face check into Clid right now, because if he ate a spear, that could mean some bad news for him, as Clid will be spotted. And of course, okay, nice little hook down here. Looks like Deft is not really concerned about even hitting the Nautilus. He's like, I want to push this lane. I don't know what you're doing, Keria. Just let me CS in peace.
And it seems like the bot lane, I mean, they're both just sort of going blow for blow. Neither bot laner does have teleport, though, so you do have to keep that in mind. Now, Chovy has cleanse here against TF. It looks like he's trying to trade, but it's totally fine because the wave is coming into him. So it's a bit peculiar why Clid was looking for any sort of a gank there. Oh.
Life is in a rough spot. That was a big mistake. Not expecting Pyosik around. And the bowling ball even missed. I mean, it wasn't, you know, too much that came in, but he just got hit by the full combo of Keria plus Ignite, and I mean, with the ticking damage of the Lilia and the Ignite, I'm not sure why he went for the flash either. Just a little bit of a jumpy Nautilus play, I'll say, to start off this game.
Yeah, and that is a pretty good first blood for DRX happening so early on, and also Lilia being the one that gets it, because her jungle clear speeds up so quickly once she gets that Runic Echo. So any kills going her way, pretty ideal. Just one assist shared too, so Thresh getting a pretty good value out of it. Tier now already completed for the Senna. And Gen.G are actually just, they're falling behind pretty much everywhere as it currently stands. So DRX really off to a very good start right here. Deft has a very good hold in front of his tier 1 turret.
나 그래 말해줄게.
I'm gonna go for the grab. They're like, oh,
잡은 거
crap.
같은데? 나이스.
But
프리징 할게.
And they did. And just talking about what they want to do with the lane after that. They seemed a little bit surprised, you know,
yeah.
the way the tone of their voices. They're like, oh, I think we got him. And just like that, it was a little bit simpler than they expected to take down that kill.
Well, the LCK total score, Senna versus Ashe 2-10, is pretty scary. But stats are not always indicative. They lead you to the questions. They don't answer them for you. What else was going on in those games? Who are the surrounding champions?
Yeah.
Those are always things that you do have to ask. Now, currently in this game, DRX are in a very, very nice position. They're up 900 gold. They should be able to get the first mountain because Lucian has such control over mid lane right now. And Rascal and Boris, I think they're having a little bit of a conversation as they see a Sheen on Volibear.
Yeah. Boris is just such a likable guy. He's very charismatic. It's hard to resist his charm. What can I say?
He is 1v9.
There's a reason why so many people get fooled as life. Ooh, nice little sidestep there. Lilia is in the vicinity, but we do have TF coming down. The flash comes in, but Deft is in a ton of trouble. They're going to give that kill over to Ruler, as it just looks like Pyosik was getting to work on the Dragon, so kind of awkward for him, not able to be there to defend on the play, and also they see where he is, so Clid comes in, and they're going to scoop up and say, thanks for the leash, bro, and we'll take that Mountain Drake to start things off, so Gen.G do get a little bit of a punch back.
Yeah, and that's a big victory for them against this DRX squad, because Lucian and Ashe are going to be the primary carries in the later stages of the game. That's a really nice cancel by Keria. Doesn't let life recall. But every little bit of armor is super valuable. Volibear will definitely utilize that a lot later. Zanya's Hourglass on Nidalee will probably come in at some point. Same on Twisted Fate. And every little bit of amp really helps out against marksman heavy champion or team comps. Cloud Dragon coming up second also does indicate that we have a pretty spicy dragon on the way. Ocean and Infernal both good.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice bit of poke coming out from Chovy. He's been doing a great job. I mean, this is something that Chovy is known for. He tries to dominate the lane as hard as possible, and in this kind of a matchup, he should be expected to, and has been doing a good job of that. About 22 CS ahead right now. The lane's crashing in and even at this moment. And DRX, they do have a nice amount of priority in a lot of the lanes, so they're just going to give this opportunity over to Pyosik. Even though he missed the dragon, he will be able to pick up this Rift Herald. And there was a ward in that pit, so they knew this was going on, and Gen.G just say, well, we're going to have to give that one over. As here's another look at the replay down on the bottom side.
Yeah, so we just see what's happening. Deft getting hit by the dredge line. BDD comes in, gold card, and says, see you later. Kill also going over to Ruler is very nice, and then everyone rotates over and gets the Mountain Drake. So, a bit unfortunate timing for DRX. But like you mentioned, Pyosik, in the meantime, he did get a solo Rift Herald capture, and those are always the best. When you have to pull over teammates to help out, they end up missing lane CS, lane gold and EXP. Feels pretty bad. BDD, not totally sure what he's doing right now. He is going to see Chovy and what Chovy's doing. He's down 23 CS right now, though, in the mid lane. Twisted Fate passive will help out a bit. Chovy does have cleanse, so I can't really see this working. I'm not sure why Clid keeps going for this, but he doesn't have any jungle camps up, so there's not a whole lot to do.
Yeah, it's kind of just sticking around, you know, just making sure that BDD isn't going to get ganked or anything like that. He's being a little bit of a human ward. That's a nice little spear straight to the face, as Rascal being quite annoying up here in the top side. He's going for it. Here we go. The Ornhorn a little bit late as the flash comes in, and oh man, he was still able to land that one as the flash will be forced by Rascal afterward. He was behind his turret, but he caught the little edge of the goat coming on in and called that Forge God very well indeed. So is able to at least force the flash once again out of Rascal.
Yeah, and so Doran and Rascal are trading really hard against one another. And you can see that Rascal, he ends up recalling. He doesn't quite have Trinity Force yet. He has the dagger as he's trying to power right into the item. And that's going to mean that now both top laners being flashless, Doran has very easy gank set up for Pyosik in the event that his ultimate's up. Rascal's not really going to be able to do anything against that. But then likewise, Destiny Gate from BDD gets very scary. That is also a turret plate that falls without giving over gold. So you got to keep that in mind, which is pretty nice. And also, I really like Chovy's itemization here. He's not sinning out of his mind losing to Boris with Blade of the Ruin King. On Lucian, he's going for more of the scaling build. It's not the Muramana that we've seen out of Nemesis in LEC, Fnatic's mid laner, but it is still a lot more scaling and control that this Lucian's going to be able to offer.
Yeah, it's pretty nice to see, as that was a very casual sidestep from BDD. Not sure if he knew what lie on the other side of that brush, because had that landed, he does not have cleanse, and he might have been in a world of pain. So with those Swifty boots, able to just sidestep. I was thinking maybe he would go Merc Treads, but you know, with all of the auto-attacking from the Lucian and the Ashe, I suppose he wants to go somewhere down the middle with a little bit of a more aggressive / defensive approach. So he's able to avoid ganks, he's able to set them up with this choice.
Yep.
And up here on the top side, you can see once again, still looks like they're very much positioning very aggressively. As the Nautilus on vision, Deft will not be fooled by this one.
And this is going to be Gen.G just taking the Cloud Dragon for themselves. Now, it's not a super big ultimate by any means. Most of Gen.G's ultimate, or actually all of them, are pretty situational. So it's not like the CDR that you're getting on the ult is ever really going to change the second cast that you would end up using it. So Ocean is going to be the soul of the game, and that is pretty spicy because both of these team comps are very brawlery, but I feel like Gen.G are making out pretty well with this. That is a Nightmare Dragon for DRX to try to beat.
Misses the knock-up here, and he's able to hop on over, and now the turnaround. We got Lilting Lullaby coming in. Where is the TF? Why is it taking him so long to come up here? And now under the turret just says, okay, I'm going to take you down. I'm not sure what happened in the mid side because BDD elected or was forced not to arrive up to the top side.
One of the other things that I really want to point out, so hopefully we'll get a replay of what was happening at BDD. My eyes actually didn't go to the minimap, so I can't really tell if something was going on with Chovy, but Chovy doesn't have a CC on Lucian, so I'm not entirely sure why BDD didn't follow through on Destiny Gate. Hopefully we get a replay, but again, BDD, one thing I want to point out is that this Rod of Ages at 14 minutes, it's very, very late. All right, so let's take a look at the mini-map here. We see what's going out. Rascal obviously leaps, doesn't get hit by the second activation. Destiny Gate is out, but it's a bluff. Twisted Fate's not in range to use the Destiny Gate yet, so I'm not sure why he activated it. That was very surprising. And given that Chovy had just seen him in mid lane, the bluff is never going to work.
Yeah, it's a pretty obvious bluff at that, and we do have to give him the benefit of the doubt by calling it a bluff, right? I mean, he was being forced under turret as, ooh, that was close. The root will land from the Senna, but yeah, I mean, he was being pushed under turret, and there was a little bit of a wave there as well. So BDD wasn't really in, roaming position to be able to get up there, and Chovy just moved up towards the top side on BDD's side of the lane. So being zoned out a little bit there, and nice call by DRX to continue on, even though their 2 health bars were pretty low up in the top side. And DRX just continuing to get some nice little trades here as Doran is going to take down this entire turret, the first one of the game, on top of many plates up there, 2 or 3, I'd imagine.
And this Ornn is going to be very big. He should be able to have his ornaments online for the 4th dragon. Given that Gen.G is getting these dragons really early, we're probably going to have a soul point game. And I think that's going to be very scary because DRX is going to be walking razor's edge pretty much against that Ocean Soul, and things can definitely get very scary there. BDD trying to shove in the wave. Clid here trying to absorb a little bit of XP, and honestly, Clid is not having a super ideal game. From the jungle opening, he did manage to get the first Mountain Dragon, but he's so far behind in the XP. He's level 9, and Pioshik is into level 11. Oh, man.
Oh, boy. Here we go. He does have the stopwatch, and actually the turnaround coming in. We got TP as well. Life using his own stopwatch, but Clid immediately is going to get burst down. A massive knockup now from Doran is going to help out as we trade kills, but now it's all DRX looking for extra as they run down the lane. A double kill going to Chovy's Lucian, and Deft, he wasn't even there. He's getting all the XP, the gold down on the bottom side. They didn't even need him, and so the 4v5 in the mid lane is going to go the way of DRX.
Yeah, and that is a very big victory for them right now. It offsets a lot of the control that Gen.G are having. Clid gets set even further behind. And let's just take a look at how this all transpired. So, really nice Lilia Ball to start things off. The sleep demands the Zanyas. Now, he does activate it a little bit sooner than I think he would have liked, so he didn't bait Pioshik as far in as he could have. Destiny Gate and Chovy with the cleanse. Rascal does manage to trade 1-for-1 against Pioshik, and Life barely manages to get out of there, but during all of that, Deft was just down in the bottom side, and everything was going fine for them. So 4,500 gold lead here at 17.5 minutes. The issue, though, is that at this dragon fight, if it is going to take place, the item gap between all the champions is actually not that big. Lucian's very, very close to Infinity Edge, and so the Rod of Ages and the Sheen on Twisted Fate is still somewhat valuable. The base levels, though, inside of the jungle is definitely something that they're going to feel. Ruler also has a level lead over Deft, so this is a super important point inside of this game. If Gen.G can get this dragon, they're still in the game.
Well, I think they're hard-pressed to get it. You know, it's not going to be easy as the hook will come in, but the double hook coming out from Keria, the knockup, but it's not enough. Life and Rascal getting too low. Lilting Lullaby now onto Clid. He gets crit down from half health to almost none, and DRX are just going to bully their way in. Doran looking for the snipe. Of course, the Warlock that is Ornn is able to summon the Demon to nearly come out and snipe him from downrange. And DRX now, they also had Shirley pushing bottom lane as this is all going. So DRX using this momentum and looking for more on this map.
Yeah, and right now they're in just such control of the game. They're up almost 6,000 gold, 18.5 minutes. They bought themselves so much time. This guarantees that Ornn is going to be able to bestow ornaments by the next dragon fight, which is going to basically suffocate Gen.G that much more, their chances inside of this game. So we see them posturing, they're all pumped up. Nidalee can't really do anything here. She's just so giga far behind. Like, casts his ultimate, but he's really lucky he doesn't lose his life for it in the end. Ornn almost has his ult available. You can see that he's chasing. He finally summons it, but doesn't go for any sort of a Mad Life play or anything, and so Life able to barely skirt away from death. In that moment, Doran might flash away here, actually.
Yeah, it's a little bit awkward. He is quite tanky, though. We do have tons of wards on top of that lantern. He cannot click that thing. And
taking a bit, you know? I mean,
is no bully, I suppose, but nice little catch out there by Gen.G. It's just one little thing. They're going to need many more of those, as there's no objective for them to force or no lane, really, where they have any push potential to do anything or anything like that. So here we go. It cleansed. That was insane. I didn't even see the stun hit him. It's like he just kept walking. So at least Ruler, you know, the Ruler effect has been real here on the side of Gen.G. And he's 1-0-2. So if there is one player that you can try to, you know, if you're a Gen.G fan, you're looking for something in this game, maybe look down towards Ruler and see what he can do in these later stage fights.
And Ruler in this game, he's positioned to basically be the carrying force in the later stages. I really like how he's itemized as well. Goes for the Yumu's Ghost Blade here, not getting trapped by the Black Cleaver. Doesn't really have any amp to give any of his teammates. He doesn't really need the item. HP pretty irrelevant as well. And you can see right here all the wards going down onto that lantern. And they just jump on top of it like it's a football. And Gen.G, they get something for themselves, but they're still down 4,500 gold. And Ornn is about to ding 14. Things are definitely going to get really scary here. 2 minutes until the ocean.
Yeah, it's really rough. And this is what Ornn does offer you once we do get to this stage of the game. And you also mentioned how Lilia is pretty fed. We're going to have some pretty reliable engage that comes out of DRX and fantastic follow-up that comes out of Lilia, Ashe, and Lucian that are just going to jump on whatever target they are able to land any amount of CC onto. So from this lead, DRX definitely in a comfortable spot. We'll see what does go on as everybody's kind of grouping up towards the Baron, but we're only 21 minutes into this game, so it's still relatively early to try to burst down that objective. I suppose for now we'll just go ahead and farm it out.
Yeah, and right now, if you're a DRX fan, you're fine with this happening. And if you're Gen.G, you're sort of just getting nervous as this continues on right now. Rod of Ages, it's going to take a while for Clid to finish his stacking. He's only at 3 right now. Really close call right there.
That was Mikhail's, by the way.
Yeah.
Just wanted to point that out. Deft will be saved by Keria in that instance.
And you can see BDD trying to do something up here in top lane, waiting for the wave. This is where freezing could happen, but we're not gonna get that. He's got a hot bait. And
He's got places to be.
he does. He's got to be at Dragon in 40 seconds, so...
Boris is calling his name, you know? He just can't wait to get back to the fountain. Buy some more items. That's the way it goes. I'm curious to see what he will buy. I don't think he's got much gold. So he just goes back.
Fiendish Codex. Yep.
He's just trying to get as much power, I suppose, for this next fight, but not going all out with an elixir or anything like that. He's still going to be looking to build into the next item. And so perhaps Gen.G are not going to be looking to go all in on this next fight by any means.
And it's interesting that you bring up the elixir. I think that some people would wonder why an elixir suggestion would come up. I think that if this was sole point, then yes, Amp Tome and elixir, if you have the gold for it, to get the most power, to just try to guarantee the capture of that game-ending objective would be pretty insane.
Oh boy, we found a couple of squishies down here. Look at Gen.G looking to pounce BDD in a really awkward spot though. He cleanses and he's getting burst down and they can't do any damage to Doran. Where is the damage coming from Gen.G? It's just kind of not there. And Doran incredibly tanky at this moment in time. TF can't really say the same for him as BDD went on a little bit of a walk. And so that will be the free Drake going over to the side of DRX, but it's a 1+1 because they also picked up the TF.
Yeah, and I don't know what Gen.G is going to really be able to do inside of this game. DRX should be able to comfortably get Baron in just a little bit. Lucian is out of control right now. He already has the Molten Edge given by Ornn. It's going to be Zanya's Paradox most likely for Pioshik as his second item once Ornn ends up getting his hands onto that for the masterwork. And let's just take a look at this. This Destiny Gate just goes in so deep. And there was no way for Gen.G to really follow up on it whatsoever. And you can see BDD was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Chovy able to just follow up and tap BDD into oblivion. And from there, I mean, it's a full-on retreat. And when Gen.G's comp is behind like this, it's really, really hard for them to play because the Senna and Twisted Fate just don't have the kind of firing power that they would ideally want at this stage of the game. Everything's not really going Gen.G's way here. 5,000 gold deficit, 25 minutes almost.
Yeah, they have a decent amount of burst and pick, but when it's always Dorn in the front line with his, his super tanky Ornn self, they're really not able to do too much. And BD absolutely was a bit out of control, off the leash, I suppose, there, down in the bottom side. They're looking to pick here onto Chovy. They would love to get the shutdown. As here we go, cleanse will be used, but the knockup comes in, plus the stun. He's gonna flash away. Not sure about that decision. Ruler with another Captain Jack just says, I'm here to play today. And that's really why Ruler is so valuable.
Yeah.
This team always just super consistent, especially when the pressure is on. But nice little pick there from Gen.G. Still waiting to see a team fight where they look strong, though, because all of their wins in this game have been, a little kill on the side over here, a little bit of, a Cloud Drake over here. Not really much else.
And it feels like if you're wondering what they can do at this point, well, it's not the Build-A-Bear that is BDD. He has the Fiendish Codex, has the Zeal. Yeah. Yeah, well, it's Ornn.
Once again, is incredibly tanky, but there is going to be a Lantern that comes out. And so DRX, I suppose, smartly saying, well, we don't have Chovy. He has a lot of our damage and gold right now, so let's just back out of that one.
Very worrying game here. Oh, I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah,
he's gonna flash.
Awkward spot, and now Life might be the one that sacrifices for it. Deft immediately going to be there and eat him up, essentially. Takes that kill down. And, okay, looking for the engage here is Keria, actually. Over the wall comes Chovy. Really nice setup from Keria. And no follow-up. Okay, the stun comes.
Oh!
Looking for the
wild card miss.
They can't quite get him. Where is the damage on a Chovy? They can't do it. And now the 280 carries going head-to-head. Deft is going to win that one just barely. And so what was just the one support kill is now 4 dead for the side of Gen.G, and DRX will absolutely take down this Baron unless Clid is able to pull off a miracle.
Well, I don't think Clid's going to be able to do it. You can say Keria acting as the gatekeeper in the event that Clid would ever try to make his way over towards the Baron Nashor pit. We take a look at this replay from a while ago. Teleport comes in. You can see the cleanse onto Chovy. Ultimate comes out. They end up getting on top of him. And they do bring him down. They gave over the kill to BDD. And then in the follow-up fight, yeah, this is where I'm not sure where BDD was going, or Rascal. I have no clue what he's thinking about or why he's doing that, because you see where all of his teammates are. You know that DRX is in very close proximity. BDD even down in bot lane. And let's take a look at this team fight. Watch the wild cards as well. So Rascal getting caught up. He gets brought down very quickly. There's the gold card, and then the wild cards whip. If they landed, Chovy would have gone down. Absolutely. And that maybe changes some of the ability to just do the Baron as simply as they would have. Def still would have killed Keria. That would not have changed whatsoever if Twisted Fate was alive, but definitely could have been a bit of a different song and dance. A lot of the predictions are instantly wrong, most likely now, Velvis.
That is true, but again, DRX were not looking solid coming into this one, so obviously there was a reason to be a little bit skeptical of DRX, but they have showed up to play. And we knew that this team, they are very skilled, they have the ability. It's just the question of can they do it on the day, as here we go, the hook comes in, they immediately take out BDD, and not much of a follow-up. Nice snipe there from Ruler. He's looking for death, gets the 2, but Chovy is just so strong right now. Takes the turret shot. In goes Rascal, though. They're going to take down Chovy. They might be able to stop the offense coming in from DRX as Pioche goes on as he will go down. That's the Quadra. And Ruler says, I'm not going to go down without a fight. I don't care how my team is going to do. They're looking for this pentakill. Should eventually be able to get it. Finally comes in. Ruler will pick up the pentakill in game number 1. Somehow, some way, against so much of the green of the way this game has been going.
They're going to get the Ocean Dragon. They're going to bring this game to Soul Point. And Ruler, now with 5 kills under his belt, he probably just got another core item. The Senna is going to go all the way to almost full item build immediately off this team fight. And DRX, with the DRX special, they charge into the base, and Senna just doing so much value right there. Clid is golden. He buys up so much time for Rascal to come over the wall. Chovy not able to do anything there. And Pioche, who was not long for this world, Doran just not able to quite make it out. You can see he was thinking about if he could land the E onto Ruler, he could maybe go for the Searing Charge and try to trade a kill away. As we come back into live, I would imagine Gen.G got the Ocean Dragon. And they're actually in a pretty okay position. If they get to Ocean Soul, things get dicey. Mortal Reminder needs to come in on Lucian as the next item. Bramblevest is already there on Ornn. Not really sure about the Ronduins on Doran. But would have been really nice to have a Solari or something at this point in the game to really just asphyxiate Gen.G's chances in a straight-up team fight, given that a lot of that fight is very brawlery. It's very burst-centric. You see the Zanya's Paradox, Molten Edge going to be given over to Def soon. And Keria actually didn't go for an ornament, which is very surprising. He went for the Shurelya's instead.
Yeah, Shurelya's has been an interesting question we've been dealing with a lot. A lot of supports, especially in the LCK, have been really favoring this item alongside of Mikhail's. Those have been the 2 items that have come back in a big way. And I suppose he's just saying, well, I just want to get those, you know, a little bit of a, 5% extra effectiveness on my engage, or I suppose disengage in some rare spots. But I mean, you're absolutely right. This game is now in a really interesting spot where it really could go either way, as I'm being attacked by a rogue Yumi in my house. But we are definitely in an interesting game state now. I mean, this could be either team's game from here on out, which is not the case even just, 2-3 minutes ago. Clid is still a little bit useless in this game. He's mostly just a heal bot for Ruler.
Yeah.
And BDD hasn't really been looking very effective. A little bit of a soft game 1 for him. So once again, I've been highlighting Ruler so much coming into these playoffs, and this guy is just insane. And he's looking to do it again potentially here, although here comes the engage. Will be nice onto the 2 of them, but there's really no follow-up.
Yeah, and DRX I'm not sure why they're doing what they're doing. They're just all grouping up in mid lane. And this is some of the weaknesses that DRX have shown throughout the split, is their inability to do late game types of macro. They really rely on just pulverizing through their opponents. And it's been one of the main criticisms of the team throughout all of 2020. So at this point in the game, we're reaching 34-35 minute mark. The gold lead at the top starts to become less relevant. It is about those ornaments, and it's the fact that Gen.G's team composition, a lot of their champions are starting to slow down. Clid, not going to be at Zhonya's anytime soon. Rascal's a bit of Build-A-Bear workshop right now, and no item completion for him really dramatically changes Volibear's influence in the game. But Mortal Reminder on Deft, Mortal Reminder on Chovy. These are really big item completions that he could end up getting. Let's see if DRX is going to be able to capture the Baron here, because this will go immediately into Ocean Soul.
Well, they're looking to lock down Doran. The follow-up on the damage a little bit slow as a nice hook comes in, and the flash is late from Clid. He immediately goes down, and now it's 4v5, and Gen.G, they're still here. They're still looking for the fight as Ruler pretty far away looking for that ultimate. In goes Chovy. He's looking for the assassination, and he's going to get it. And without that damage to come in from Ruler, I'm not sure if they've got a chance, but now Gen.G, they're just splitting up. They're trying to run away as fast as possible as DRX are trying to get in there. You see Keria now going to flash in, looking to stop the back of Rascal. Not having that Volibear is going to be incredibly important, but here comes BDD.
Oh!
As the teleports come in, as the damage not quite there onto Pyoshik. Life, he's tanky, but he doesn't do much else as Chovy gets extremely low, but he's still going in the TP, trying to go down from the side of Rascal. He's going to get here, but he's so low. In goes Doran, who gets the assassination on the TF, and I think they might have just done it. DRX, they had one big hiccup in this game, but they just got to focus down this Nexus, and they will take game number 1 away from Gen.G.
And what a game number 1 that ends up going over. I do not know what to really expect for this series now because of the dominant lane phase that DRX ended up having. They had a lot of control pretty much throughout the early and mid game. They did fumble the initial dragon, if you recall, but they managed to end up carrying it through to a victory, and Clid having a very off performance on the Nidalee. Even at the very end there, the fumble was very uncharacteristic, really late on pulling the trigger there, and in a weird way, it sort of did have an impact at the very end of the game, because that was a very close Nexus defense.
Yeah, I think it was closer than we expected it to be, just the way that it went in the early and mid game. And there was, it felt like a lot of uselessness within the comp from behind out of the TF and the Nidalee. And I mean, Clid didn't have a great game, BDD didn't either. I mean, he set up that kill down on the bottom side, but the Lucian was just way too oppressive in the lane. I think Chovy did a really great job of denying a lot of the map control that TF generally has, and the jungle was actually won this game pretty handily by Pyoshik. These are things that we didn't exactly expect, and are definitely part of the reason why the game went the way it did, as we're starting off with Life's little oopsie in these highlights.
And we saw Life's oopsie, Deft, end up getting tagged here inside of this highlight. This was a very big turnaround. This was actually one of the most defining moments of the entire game. BDD uses the Zhonya's a little bit early, and so Pyoshik wasn't as committed as he otherwise could have been. And this is just a massive 4v5 victory for them, because remember, Deft was, meanwhile, he was down in the bottom. This was BDD just going way too ham into the backline with that Destiny gate. DRX all just collapsed. BDD tries to flash away, but Chovy able to just get in there and tap him on the Lucian. Here, Blue Trinket comes out, cleanse. They got a lot of value here. They got both of his summoners, but didn't really matter. Gen.G, they almost managed to get back into a winning spot inside of this game, but the writing was not on the wall.
Yeah, I think there were some pretty big mistakes in this game out of Gen.G. I also think that DRX fought better in terms of the team fights in the mid game, and when you don't have some of your, your main performers not really performing, if they're not doing very well, to start you off, you're not going to have a good time. As Carrion was pretty on point. I liked a lot of his engages. I'm not, it's not my responsibility to do the POG this time. I'll leave that up to you as the analyst of this cast, but it would be interesting to think about who would have picked it up this time around.
Well, I think you don't need to ask me who got the player of the
game.
game.
I don't even know why I even...
Yeah.
Obviously, it's Ruler, right?
Well, it's a weird way to say Chovy. You gotta really work on your accent there, I think.
That's true.
Is
struggling with that.
Yeah. Makes sense.
There's only one player who got a pentakill, and that was Ruler, so...
Yep.
But, yeah, of course, DRX, I think as a team, did have a pretty nice game. Overall, this was a good assassination from Chovy. Sees his moment and says, well, I'm just going to go on in, and that's where really Lucian does find some of his power, is in some of those broken up team fights. If you're just going front to back, he does suffer a little bit, but if he can isolate one target with that crit build, he's going to have a fun time, especially if it's a squishy Senna, as he does do the most damage in the game by far, I'd say. I mean, he's more than 6,000 ahead of even Ruler, who picked up a pentakill, so obviously Chovy doing a fantastic job on the Lucian here in Game 1.
Yeah, I mean, he lane kingdomed BGD really hard. He was a very key part in influencing basically everything that was happening around mid. He built well, he didn't lose to Boris. That's always an upside. It's a very difficult thing if you watch League across the world right now, so he's got that going. We'll see if Gen.G can bounce back in Game 2, though.
Yep, that is the question. So, guys, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, Game number 2.